G'day guys, this is Corey Hind. I hope you're well. I'm just shooting some more videos about how to win on Google for local small business owners because that's what people ask me about, local SEO, wider SEO, and how just to win on Google and beat your competition. So I'm just going to go through this post here and talk a little bit more in depth about each of the sections. So the first thing I talk to people about when they come my way looking about, hey, I want to win on Google, the first thing I'll ask them is what is the main action that you want people to take? When they come to your website, what do you want them to do? Is it download something? Is it book an appointment, grab an ebook, uh, hit the contact us button? What do you want them to do? And I want people to think about that element of their website before they do anything else, because it's such an important thing and it's often neglected. Okay, so what you can do once you start thinking about that, and maybe surveying some friends, talk to some clients, talk to some colleagues, etc., go and grab yourself Hotjar. Hotjar is really cool. It looks a little bit like this. So when you install Hotjar on your site, it'll give you live recordings of people visiting your website, so you can figure out, where are they going, what are they doing. You might think that they're looking at certain parts of your website, but in fact they're looking at other distracting parts of your website. So it's a really good way to get that interplay between what you think people are doing and what they actually are doing. It's a really good thinking activity. So grab hotjar.com and get screen recordings. You'll be fascinated. It's really interesting. It's a bit stalkerish, but it's interesting stuff. So grab Hotjar. I highly recommend it. Once you've done that, okay, once you've got some recordings, maybe talk to some colleagues, talk to some friends, associates, whatever, you have to do this. You have to start making changes and deleting stuff. Okay, so you might need to, this is something I often do when I'm helping people to win on Google, is deleting stuff from their site, deleting pages that don't help their traffic, deleting pages that are irrelevant, and trimming back so we can focus on the best stuff. Okay, so I had a really dumb example I was going to show you, but I won't. It's a bit embarrassing. But think of it this way. You've got three things to look at. People will look at all different three things. If you delete those other two things and just have the main thing, people can't look at the other things, right? So we want to learn what people are looking at so we can make changes and make life easier. Now, the next thing that I advise people to do is find that bullseye phrase. I've talked about this a lot, but it's always worthwhile revisiting what is your bullseye phrase and other keywords associated to your business. What are your customers searching for? So go on, I'm just going to grab my head and put it over there. What are people actually searching for? Is there traffic around for those searches? And is that stuff on your website? Have you built your website based on some key phrases that you want to win? For example, my insurance broker would have insurance broker Tauranga, which is where I live, as his bullseye phrase. Now, around that, there'll be lots of other words and phrases we could build content around, headings, images, pages, the lot. But essentially, that bullseye phrase is insurance broker Tauranga, because we know if he dominates that phrase, then he'll start to win more free traffic from Google, which turns into, hopefully, more leads. Now, of course, as I shoot this, there's a plane flying over my head because I'm in New Zealand, outside because the weather's so nice. I'm just going to keep talking. All right. So the next task is number 4, which is your website mobile friendly? Now, I'm going to suggest that it probably is, and you don't need to worry about this. But just as a reminder, remember the old days when websites would just shrink down and be on mobile? If your website's old, like 5 years plus, you might want to just double check that it is mobile friendly. Now, the next thing that people can do, this is things that you can do at home. Okay, check your website speed, make sure it's fast. gtmetrics.com. There's another one we've got down here as well. There's a few ways you can check your website speed and figure out how to improve that. Work with your developer. If you've got your own site that you manage yourself, look at the highlighted things that come up in these tests and start to resolve them. Okay, we're not going to go through this because it can be quite an extensive process, but just remember that Google has told us explicitly in the past that all other things being equal, they will rank the faster loading website higher. So that's something to remember. The next task is pretty basic. You've probably done this already, but just make sure you have claimed all of your social websites, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all those things. Even if you don't use them, you might use them in the future. You might just have them as a placeholder so your name is a little bit more apparent on the internet. All these little things are like breadcrumbs on the internet, so you want to be across them. Now, the next thing that I find myself doing for customers often is improving the images on their website, because quite often websites are slow, and often it is because the images are too big. So go and grab yourself this really cool website, compressor.io, that will take your images and shrink them down in terms of their pixels so they load faster. I guess they get their revenue by ads on the site, because that's what their site looks like if you go there right now. Okay, the next thing you can do, and again, this is something that anybody at home can do, please stay for the end of the video because there's some boomer tips at the end. Task 8 is check for broken links. Just go to deadlinkchecker.com. I've just highlighted there. Error 404 pages are bad for business. Google does not like to be confused or see errors or faults or anything that's out of line. If you have errors or faults on your website, you will be penalized for that and work down the rankings, not up the rankings, and that is not what we want to see. The next thing is to make sure your images have alt text. Go to seoptimer.com /alt tag checker and make sure that your images have alt tags. It's a really important thing that Google looks at when they're ranking pages. Those alt tags give some information to Google about what the image is for, because sometimes people's websites aren't loaded with images and Google will revert to the alt tag. So not having them is a mistake. Google does not like mistakes, so do have them, and that will be something that Google loves. Now, the next thing is more of a subjective test, not so much of a tool you can use. It's just checking that your site is all content related, interlinked. It's subjective. So just go to your website, make sure that all your stuff is related. Quite often people have a website and they've got some random pages about something that's off topic. Do you think Google likes that? Heck no. So make sure that your stuff is related. The next thing you can do is make sure that your pages all have one H1 title only, which is the biggest heading word phrase at the top. Essentially, like a newspaper has a headline and the rest are subheads. You don't want to have more than one headline, just one headline, please. seoptimer.com /H1 checker will do that for you. The next thing you can do, and I do this really early in the process when I'm helping somebody to win on Google, is to check that your pages have meta titles and meta descriptions. I should have put an image there, but that's what Google sees when they're scrolling through when they're trawling through pages, is the meta title in blue and the meta description just below that. You want to have those, and you can use something as simple as woorank.com to do that. There's quite a few tools. I've got one up here as a Chrome plugin that we use, and that will pull up any pages that don't have stuff, and you can work through that yourself. The next task is to do directory listings. I've just been talking to one of my colleagues about this today, because we review our list all the time to see what's current and relevant. Make sure that you're on there. Maybe just go through our page and look at the directory listings. If you're not in New Zealand, there'll be some different ones for you that you might want to check as well. So that's just some some tips and ideas that you can work through yourself to help you win on Google. If you've got any questions about any of that stuff, pop them in the comments below, and do make sure you subscribe to my channel as well, because I'm trying to help small business owners win on Google without spending too much money. All right, so hopefully that's what we're doing for you. All right, guys, we'll talk later. Bye for now.